There's supposed to be a story behind each of these, and this is the story of the family, the strong family ties. Getting together.
Olaf Kvamme is an incredibly important person to the history of this museum. His input and guidance and love of this institution is incredibly important to the way we see ourselves and the way the community sees us.
What was happening in 2001?
Olaf Kvamme is amazing. He always seems to have at least a half dozen projects going at any given time, and you know that you will sooner or later get involved in at least one or two of those projects.
It came from the old days, and then it sort of disappeared. And
Olaf Kvamme is the perfect cross between a spark plug and a pillar of granite.
this was the Sommerfest that
He represents for so many of us the kind of blend of creativity, open-mindedness, can-do mentality, and connection with the earth and the community that makes him an irresistible anchor for any kind of project, particularly those that occur here at this museum.
My father was born in Bergen, Norway, the Kvamme Valley, very near Bergen. His family came over on a boat when he was a baby, and I do remember him telling us that his mother and father tied him up, made a little hammock in the ship, and they traveled by train across Canada and lived in Tacoma. And I know they took in boarders that really taught him the Norwegian nursery rhymes and little songs that he knew for children. By the time he got to high school, they lived in Fife, and I think if he wasn't Norwegian, he'd be Japanese.
my earliest job probably was working in the fields with the Japanese farmers. Every summer we'd go out and pick beans or strawberries or that sort of thing. During Pearl Harbor period, I was delivering newspapers, and I remember on the route that Sunday, I stopped halfway through the route to read the paper, and there was the Pearl Harbor story, and I was delivering to a substantial number of Japanese American families.
Of his school, I think maybe 50% were Japanese Americans, and so it was a big memory for him when his neighbors were all, interned during that time. And he remembers riding his bike to the Puyallup Fairgrounds from Fife to visit his friends who were initially interned in Puyallup. When he was in the military, interestingly, he got selected to go to a language program where he did learn to speak Japanese, and after the war was stationed in Japan.
And this is where I worked. This is the Daiichi building, insurance building. That's where MacArthur had his office. Oh, yeah. And eventually I did 2 interrogations of Japanese generals after the war.
That just increased his interest and his knowledge of Japanese history, and he loves to speak Japanese. He started out his professional career as a teacher, and he, at a pretty young age, became a principal and became director of elementary education for the Seattle schools and various administrative jobs.
Olaf was the director of governmental relations. He was the liaison between Seattle School District and the state, the city, the county, and so on. People would see him walking around the school district office in his dark gray pinstripe suit, and they always referred to him as Senator Kvamme. He kind of had that senatorial look.
When my father retired, he really got interested in community organizations, and the ones that were most important to him were the Nordic Heritage Museum and the Seattle Bergen Sister City Association.
I met him in connection with Scandinavia Today, which is years ago, 1983. This museum was very young then, but we had been blessed with the visit by the King and Queen of Sweden. Olaf managed to get some school classes to come here to meet with the King and Queen. That was one of the many, many thousands of things that he has done for the museum.
Olaf has boundless energy, and he has a never-ending supply of fantastic ideas and great thoughts. With artistic director Lisa Bergman, Olaf came up with this idea of creating a chamber music series that would focus on music composed by great composers from the Nordic countries, presented by world-class musicians, and it's been a sensational hit. Olaf felt that the museum needed a publication, so Olaf got a hold of a few key people and put together the journal. One of the other projects that he kind of planted the seed was the Nordic Spirit Volvo Pinta ship that had been donated to the museum.
There will be a whole exhibit in 3 rooms downstairs about AYP.
Olaf at that point was getting very excited about the centennial of the AYP, Alaska Yukon Pacific Expedition, and the fact that a Viking ship had been built here in Washington and sailed across Lake Washington, and the fact that we had this stylized Viking ship, the idea of restoring that and actually sailing it as part of the centennial celebration of the AYP. Lo and behold, beyond all odds, we were able to row the boat across Salmon Bay as part of the celebration of the 100th anniversary of Norway Day for AYP. Probably one of the most significant contributions that Olaf has made to the museum is, while he was president, we launched the campaign for a new home, something that we continue to work with.
I think Olaf will be perhaps the most excited of us all to see the next chapter of what he started, a new Nordic Heritage Museum, complete with all the trimmings, especially a concert hall worthy of the cultural events that we will be presenting.
The Nordic Heritage Museum is unique because it unites all the 5 Nordic countries. Olaf Kvamme is simply exemplifying that spirit of Nordic cooperation and his ability to go beyond borders, so to speak, to work with all people.
The Nordic Heritage Museum has been a huge part of my father's life during his entire retirement years, and he, I think, is so proud that we have an institution like this in Seattle.
Olaf has made an incredible mark on the museum, and his legacy is something we hold up as a great example of what can be done. And that's why we're here tonight, is really to support the museum and look at the incredible contributions that Olaf Kvamme has made to this museum and support him and support the museum as we move forward.